G'day mate, 40 here. So I'm in Tannum Sands, Queensland, and this is about Tannum Sands nationalism because my grandparents on my mother's side used to own this. So the family's left with just a few lots, but on blood and soil nationalism, well, we used to own all this. Now, just behind is Coles Express here. My brother owns a Tannum Garden Centre, so I've really got to be minding my P's and Q's because my brother owns a garden centre and my sister's here and I got family here. We're all very respectable people except for 40, so I'm going to try to appear respectable. And so there are names of all my rallies on the streets here. And so I'm currently walking on Booth Avenue, which is my mother's maiden name. So here's Booth Avenue, right? My mother's maiden name. And then behind me is the Tannum Garden Centre. Yeah. And then there's my Uncle Donnie. Donald, yep, there's Donald, my Uncle Donnie. And then my mum's maiden name. So many of the streets I walk around here for my rallies or for my mother. So just down the road here and to the left would be a street name for my mum. There's a beautiful beach out beyond. So I can hear the pounding of the surf from my brother's place. Just went to the post office to pick up a package. I ordered an external microphone for my iPhone. I'm not using my iPhone right now, but when I plug it in, you'll get much better quality sound due to popular demand, improving the quality of the sound on my stroll streams. So I don't have my gimbal with me, obviously, as you're getting a herky-jerky walkabout. But this is kind of home for me, for my family. So my mother's father, Alfred, bought this land, came to this land something like 1952. So very few houses then. And eventually the family subdivided it and sold it off. So blood and soil nationalism, Australian style, Tannum Sands style, goes back to about 1952. So I got blood here, got a brother here, got aunties and uncles who come up here, cousins and nieces and all that stuff. So an attachment to the land. There are fed dink and mango trees around here. It's a nice Tannum Sands beach. So apparently, according to one article, Tannum Sands is among the 10 most affluent zip codes in Australia. I find that impossible to believe, but I was told that by my brother, and my brother would not lie to me. So the beach is about half a kilometre away. And then you want the big city, it's Gladstone, it's about 30 minutes drive away. So I lived here for a year after high school. So almost all these houses look really familiar to me. Like this area of town hasn't changed much. So walking down familiar streets, lived here from June 84 to June 85 with my brother. And got to spend more time with my rallies. Now emotionally I really want to come back, stay back in Australia. But might wait to make a final decision. Oh yeah, lovely weather, mate, absolutely. So I'm probably going to go back to Los Angeles and see how I feel going back home. Yeah, it's raining like hell in Los Angeles. Well, it's gorgeous summertime, so quite a bit of bother to get across the border here into Queensland. Like you have to fill out a border pass, about 20-25 questions. Some of them are a bit difficult to understand. So I'm just wondering how a stupid person would navigate. Then we had to get a PCR COVID test negative result. And so we set off on our journey before we got our PCR negative results. So that would have been a bit disappointing if we could have been 11 hours into our drive up north from Sydney only to find that one of us had tested positive, and then we'd have to turn around and go back home. But the actual checkpoint only took us 10 minutes to get through. It only took about 5 seconds to examine our documents, even though we had New South Wales license plates, the Queensland license plates that just waved through. But how do dumb people navigate all these bureaucratic restrictions, right? Like I'm, above average in intelligence, and people in my social circle and family are above average in intelligence, and we found it a bit of a challenge and a bit anxiety making. We made it through, but how do the dummies navigate all this? I guess dumb people just don't travel as much. I mean, I was talking to one woman who just made it through like several border checkpoints before the States and Australia shut down for many, many months. Like she could have been shut out of home. Many people have been shut out of their homes because the borders shut down really, really fast. And it's so humbling to be here as well, because pretty much everyone I've known has done far better in life than I have, as far as they've gotten married, they've got kids, maybe they're on spouse number 2 or 3, they got superannuation. How is Kevin Samuels making truckloads when you have experience in terms of self-help? Yeah, I need to get my acting gear. I mean, everybody I know is so much financially ahead of me, and it's humbling. Like, just like experiencing and seeing my character flaws so keenly on this trip. Because I came out here, the way I could financially swing this is by bludgeoning off my brother and sister, right? So I've had mates take me out to fancy meals, and like a family take me out to fancy meals, put me up, and I've had very few expenses because I've just been bludgeoning, like going home to have lunch with the rabbi, like having meals at shul, meals with friends. So it's humbling. Like it makes me realize that I've got a lot to learn from almost everyone around me, because they have been much more effective and successful at the game of life than I have. So that's my mission on this trip, is to learn. It's okay to throw a few jokes in, but I'm here to learn, man. Because everyone around me is far better off than I am financially, in most forms of a successful life, as far as marriage, kids, stability. So thinking very much about moving to Sydney, but at this point I think I'll fly home to Los Angeles in January and then see how I feel once I'm back in Los Angeles. And I'm going to start applying for jobs in Sydney right this week. I've got various resumes made up, and see how that goes. And yeah, just noticing the frugality, like some of my more successful friends, they're incredibly generous to me, but they're incredibly frugal with themselves, which is humbling. Like I'm bludgeoning off, finer, kinder people than myself. Right? That's what I'm doing. I'm bludgeoning off finer, kinder people than myself, while I'm spending all this time orating about morality and recovery and self-help, but they're actually doing the work. Because I got to admit that my tendency isn't so strong in actually doing the work. I'm more someone who likes to, I'm back, so I'm just wandering around talking on my phone. So I'm willing to talk about right and wrong. No way, not getting back into that dirty industry. I'm emergency recovery point. So I guess that's for a tsunami, right? Emergency assembly point. That must be if we get a tsunami through here. But step 1, stay away from porn. Step 2, stay away from Nazis. Oh, mate. People around here live in lovely homes right by the beach. So, where's my mum's street? So Margaret Street think that is my grandmother, I believe, on my mother's side. Oh yeah, lovely sound of the cicadas. So my stepmom last night stopped by Caloundra. So my mother's street, I think, is right up here. No, my mother is not named Groper, right? That's not my dear mom. But this is blood and soil nationalism because this land has been in my family for a couple of generations. Well, really passed through my family in one generation. But the Fords have been here. No, the Boos. The Fords are my father's side. The Boos are my mother's side. So Alfred. Okay, Alfred is my grandfather on my mother's side. So Alfred is my mum's dad, and he bought all this land. He moved out here in 1952. He owned Tannum Sands. So here's Alfred Street, Margaret Street, and then around here has got to be my mum's street. Yeah, no trash all over the ground. Yeah. So Australians have gotten much better with not polluting, not trashing everything. Have all the lockdown restrictions been lifted? No, they have not been lifted, but they're pretty complicated. And so I don't know, how do dummies navigate lockdowns? How do dummies travel in the age of COVID? I mean, travel is demanding enough, but now traveling in the age of COVID, I just don't know how people with even an average intelligence swing it. I mean, my friends and I, with IQs above 120, we have a bit of trouble navigating. How about people with a 95 IQ? There's no way someone with an 85 IQ could navigate these restrictions unless they have someone smarter. So this is my mum's street. This is Gwen Street, Tannum Sands. It's my dear old mum. I went to visit her grave at Avondale University. Okay, Mum, this is for you. Just visited my mum's grave. Then I visited my dad's grave yesterday in Caloundra. So this is my mum's street. I got to walk along my mum's street. So I'd like to think that my mum walked along here. So she was the oldest, I think, of her siblings. My dear mum's, and my dad has a nicely kept up gravesite, nice modest gravestone, referencing his faith in Christ and mentioning his 2 wives. My mother died when I was almost 4. My stepmom's still alive, and then mentions my dad's 3 kids. So this is my mum's street here in Tannum. What a family history. Like I'm walking the streets of my family. They have giant baobab trees there, mate. I'd have to ask my brother, he's the nurseryman, so he knows all about the trees, knows what fruits you can, wild fruits and berries and grasses that you can eat. So he knows the names of trees and stuff. And then I got a mate who works for the botanical gardens, so he's also up on all this. So coming from a Seventh-day Adventist background, Seventh-day Adventists tend to live in country areas. It's overwhelmingly a rural religion, and so going on nature walks, particularly on the Sabbath, is a really big thing in Seventh-day Adventist religion. So a lot of my mates from childhood love going on a nature walk. Tannum Sands is a pretty good place for a nature walk. Really nice walk along the beach here. So they've got crocodiles in Boyne River, which is about a mile to my left. So that way, Boyne River, you got crocodiles in the river there. And then you got buoys. I used to swim out to these buoys about half a mile off the shore. And then I found out that on the buoys were meat hooks, and on the meat hooks were meat, like sheep, that they'd used to see if the sharks were biting. And I was swimming out there, and I was probably swimming through packs of sharks. So sharks generally don't eat much human flesh. Australia looks like it fits right next to Madagascar and Africa like a puzzle before the continental drifts. Yeah, that sounds right. I just read Darwin's Origin of Species, and man, is that book like a role model for how scientists should comport themselves. He just assembles data point after data point after data point to back up his theories. He doesn't offer any theories without offering tremendous data, including continental drift. And then he also offers up all sorts of data points that would contradict and invalidate his theories. Like, this would falsify my theory. So, and some of it's really well written. So you can tell overall the book was written in haste. Some parts of it are really well written. Not an easy read, but not a formidable read either. So an above average challenging read. And just an excellent model for how scientists should comport themselves. Like, present your theories, then present the evidence for your theories, then present what type of evidence would falsify and contradict your theories. Can you hear the ocean? Getting close to the ocean, mate. And I think it's just a good way for people to operate in general, right? If you got a theory about how life works, then present the evidence for your theory, and then also describe evidence that would falsify your theory. So Origin of Species, you read it and you can understand why it's been the most influential book published in the last 200 years. So yeah, I got a lot of mates and a brother who really know their nature. We want to move to Los Angeles. Yeah, that was a tradie truck that passed by. Tradies are just doing so well, mate. Tradies are just making tons and tons. Right now there's an enormous construction boom. And tradies means people working in the trades are just doing really well. Amazingly, there seems to be more of a demand for tradies right now than for vloggers and bloggers. Like, absolutely stunning. Like, why is there more of a demand right now for a fitter and a turner than for a moral leader? Why is there more of a demand right now for people who can install electrical stuff rather than a guru of recovery? Why is there more of a demand right now for tradies rather than for elevated moral thinker? Curbs seem low. Yeah, they have drains. It's a really nice neighborhood, mate. So Tannum Sands, it's like the Miami Beach of central Queensland. Lots of Christmas. That flag, which isn't fluttering very well right now, that's saying Merry Christmas. So a lot of Christmas ornaments, decorations. Like, going to shops and people are wearing that Santa headgear and stuff. So the water temperature here is going to be like bath water. So in Sydney, the water temperature when I was there, I think when I arrived it was like 65. When I left it was 67. When I got up to Shelley Beach and Caloundra, the water temperature was about 72. And I think the water temperature here is going to be about, Tannum Sand is going to be about 74, 75. Which is just delicious. Just absolutely like bath water. All right, I'm going to humble myself, get off my live stream, and interact with my family. Cheers, mate.